Green beans, Creole green beans and bacon with red onions. When we were growing up, we didn't call them green beans. We called them snap beans. And the only kind they had was not the variety that you have right now, but it was called the Kentucky Wonder green beans, the Kentucky Wonder beans. And then Mama would take and she'd fry up the bacon, to get on that good old bacon grease in there. And then she'd saute a few of the onions in there and then throw in a little bit of flour and the green beans and let that cook. And then she'd add some kind of a liquid. And then as it cooked, the flour in there would make like a nice sauce, or what we call like a gravy. And at times we didn't even have any other meat in the house that we could have with it. So Mama would just cook a pot of rice. What I do sometimes now at home, just a pot of rice, and you pour those snap beans with bacon and onions over the rice, and you've got one full meal. Now, when it came to the chicken sausage gumbo with shrimp, oh my God. There is nothing like a great, big, huge, steaming pot of gumbo. The more things you put in it, the better. But when I make it, I like to do the shrimp, the sausage, and the chicken. But first, you always have to start with that very important procedure. That's with your roux. Now, you don't make the roux fast. You take your time. And that's when you get the utmost flavor, is when you take your time and put all that love and feeling into your roux. And that basically is the basis for your gumbo and for an awful lot of Cajun and Creole cooking. For desserts, okay, the Banana Foster right now, that's a pretty fancy dessert that's being served in a lot of the Cajun and Creole restaurants, especially in Louisiana, and a lot of other cafes or restaurants that copy it. But when we were growing up, it was like, it was the bananas and it was ice cream. And if there was any brandy or anything around the house, we didn't pour it over the ice cream and light it. We had a little sip here. My grandfather would always make sure we had a little bit for us to drink, but it was nothing by putting it on and flaming it and eating it after that. But to us, that was bananas with ice cream on it, but we didn't know anything about it being called Banana Foster. I've served it a couple of times, and I've also taught classes at the co-op how to make the Banana Foster. Oh, and then one of my favorite memories was when I came to California, actually moved to Hollywood, and after my grandmother had passed away, and I was like on my own and moved to Hollywood. And my friend said, after one night of all this dancing and having a really good time, says, "Hey, let's go out to breakfast." That time it was a big house of pancakes. So I thought, cool, the house of pancakes. I can probably get something like I'm used to getting at home, pancakes. So I looked at the menu and I ordered corn cakes. Well, she brings this stuff to the table and lays it down in front of me. I go, "What is this?" She says, "What you ordered, ma'am. This is corn cakes." I said, No. These aren't corn cakes. I looked down at my plate. There was these little thin pancakes that had whole kernels of corn in it. No, this isn't it. I was thinking about the corn cakes that we had growing up, that we'd have slathered in butter and molasses. And they were thick and crunchy with lots of cornmeal in it. There was no whole kernels of corn. But I guess those were the California way of making corn cakes. Nothing like I make, nothing like Grandma made, nothing like I was used to eating when I was a child. Cabbage. That was one of the crops that we raised in our garden. Not really crops, but one of the plants, one of the vegetables that we raised in our garden was cabbage. We ate a lot of cabbage. For the smothered cabbage, smothered means, you know, like smothering it, like burying it underneath a whole bunch of stuff until it just melts down to just utter goodness and beautiful mouthfeel and flavor. My mom would just take and she'd like uh, blanch the cabbage in hot water and then layer the leaves of the cabbage down with some onion and some butter and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and of course make a nice white roux and put in between the different layers of it. And then of course you top it with the white roux, and then you just simmer it, cover it in a skillet until it's just really, really tender. And you may put just a little teeny bit of nutmeg on top just to bring out the flavor of that. And you will enjoy that. That's another one of those dishes that you could just eat without having any meat. You don't need any meat. It's a meal all in itself. Coconut rice.